Hey everyone, welcome to Pass or Play. So today we have Queen Sugar Season 7, Episode 9, titled Whispered to Us, streaming on the OWN app and also on the OWN channel. So we open with Nova and Camille. They're talking, kind of catching up, and they're walking down this beautiful forest path, stretch of trees. Cinematography wise, it's like a really cool like picture with them walking down this like long path of trees. It's really beautiful, actually. And it's been 20 years. We come to find out since high school when Nova didn't show up to a graduation party with Camille, where they were going to come out, I guess, as girlfriends. And, Nova apologized, saying that she would have showed up, but she was outed to her dad, Ernest, and it kind of changed the relationship she had with him, and it really hurt her. She said he looked at her with a sadness in his eyes, most likely because maybe he just didn't know how to have that conversation with Nova other than kind of just being disappointed, but loving her, but just maybe feeling like her life was going to be more difficult, and maybe just not even knowing how to really talk to her about that. And I think he ended up having probably regrets about it because Camille lets Nova know, that he was coming down to the restaurant, and it looked like he wanted to maybe have a conversation, but he would just kind of order the number six and kind of either eat it there or go home, and then that was about all he would do. So it seemed like he did regret it, and maybe he was trying to maybe muster up the nerves to maybe apologize to Camille, maybe for having some part in Nova and their relationship or something, but he never did. But then later on in the episode, Nova, she finally speaks to the school board, to keep her book and other books, about African American history, part of the school curriculum. Nova says to one of the parents, like arm your children with knowledge instead of guns, and it's true. They rather have, you know, guns. People will, and I'm not even like an advocate for guns or anything like that necessarily, but people, with all these kind of violent shootings, people are still fighting for that, but they're not fighting necessarily for people to be educated, to actually, you know, um, carry knowledge and information that, hopefully will make people better and more conscientious of the choices that they're making. But either way, in this episode, the school board, orders a ban on all text with mention to race and sexuality. And Then we go over to Aunt Vi in Hollywood. They miss having the boys there. And, Hollywood suggests that they look, back into fostering again. And, Aunt Vi is hesitant because, eventually she's like, they have to let them go. Like, Blue, when he lived with her, and, the boys, them leaving off to go with their dad. And Hollywood's like, you have a lot of love to give. And, and it's precious, and kids out there, they deserve to know a love like yours. And they eventually decide to to start to fill out the paperwork to kind of to start fostering again. And then we go over to Darla and Ralph Angel. Ralph is concerned about Blue being in the same state as Chase, and and if or when, will they tell Blue about Chase? And Darla's like, if the time arises, or he asks about it, then we will tell him, but we're not going to just tell him right now. Let him still be young. At some point he probably will ask as he gets older. When he comes and asks for the information, then we'll tell him, basically, is what she's saying. Not that she won't ever tell him, but just, maybe not for the next, 10 years, while he's giving the $250,000 plus the $25,000, for the next 3 years, once a month. Yeah, probably after that, maybe that's when they'll have, right, because they made him sign a paper to basically stay away from them. So, having Blue go to see him, or I guess they could Zoom or Skype or something. But either way, yeah, she's like, no, I don't want that to happen. And then later, too, Hollywood ends up talking to Ralph Angel, telling him Chase is not worth, thinking of, and to, to let that anger go, because it's not healthy, and it does no one any good. And, Ralph Angel was just like, I have all this anger and contempt for Chase, and, how could I just, let him get away with doing that to my wife? And, Hollywood is like, you didn't let him get away with it, but you need to let it go. You need to move on with your life, and be happy. Let that go, let that anger go. And he also talked about, how he was, and how he kind of had to hold himself together with Jimmy Dale, and understanding, how Ralph Angel feels, is the way that he felt when he, met Jimmy Dale, when he came back in town trying to talk to Aunt Vi. So he does understand what Ralph Angel's going through. And later on, Dollar basically calls Nova, and they end up meeting at the sugar mill. And she lets Nova know that she's won against Chase, and she doesn't feel like he has any power over her anymore. She feels better about it. She feels healed, and she's saying that Nova's book, is only half of her story. And and basically that Nova has her blessing to sell the rights in regards to her story. She's probably going to want her to finish it too. Finish the rest of her story and add that, hopefully, to the script, and not just leave it where it was, where she just kind of like where she's just holding on to all those emotions and not really dealing with it. But she's like, I have some closure, I have some peace. It's okay for you to release this. Just tell my full story. And that's great. And that will hopefully inspire and empower other people who've been in the same circumstance. And so now we go to Micah, who asked Cardell, from the co-op, can he use a pic of him hugging Ralph Angel, when they were helping Cardell with the flood and the storm with the sandbags and all that. And I think that was the last episode, or at least the episode before last. But Micah asked him, can he use the photo of him, hugging Ralph Angel to sell, or to use actually, in his art show. And Micah says, if he sells it or whatever, he will give the profits to the co-op. Um, and then Micah has an art show at school, and the pick actually sells. They don't show how much the pick sells for. He did. It's like the old school photo. I don't think he did it as an NFT. He did it probably, in a dark room or whatever style kind of print, or picture paper, whatever. But it sells. And his professor Rashid congratulates Micah and says, Micah, you're starting to find your voice. And Micah's like, this is the direction that I want to go. And as soon as when he says that, Zane shows up, like, we should sell these. I can get investors to maybe start another NFT business or something. And Micah's like, no, NFT, the NFT business is not for me. And, neither is the way you operate to get money and use people, more or less. He didn't say that exactly. He was like, I want substance, in the work that he does, more than money. And, and how about some integrity, Zane? Because I don't really feel like Zane get that. But it was like, finally, look at Micah finally getting the clue, smelling the coffee on Zane being a user. And Zane may have his reasons for being the way that he is. He seems like he's a smart guy, and I guess he does know some people. He just needs to find, Rashid told him, you need to be the change that you want to see. Um, and Zane just kind of looking like, okay. And I think that maybe that'll be the last we see of Zane, hopefully. But again, Micah looked like he finally got a clue and wised up. Um, And then it turns out that the NFT business that Zane was a part of or worked for, crashed and burned. It's no more. So when the servers crashed, it was probably either because they ran out of money, they didn't have any money, or something. So who knows if Micah even got any of that money that he was supposed to get for the sale of his NFT that sold for all that money. So maybe the guy spent it on all those private jets and trips that he was taking. So um, the businessman was not a good businessman, apparently. And then so we go back to Hollywood, who organizes the dads in the community to patrol at the school to kind of help in aiding to stop bullying and to stop the kids fighting each other. And they had these shirts that said "Dads on Patrol." And there was this kid who was walking down the hallway and bumps into another kid on purpose. And people will do that on like the bus walking down the street. They'll just like bump you in the shoulder and just keep on moving. Sometimes they'll look at you like, "What you gonna do?" I got better things to do with my life. But anyway, when this happens in the school, the kid bumps into the other kid, and Hollywood sees it, and he's like, basically, treat people better, treat each other better, let's be better. And the kid's like, "Yeah, okay, Hollywood, whatever." And he walks off. And after, even though this is later in the episode, but it's in regards to when Nova, does her speech in front of the school board. Hollywood decides that he's going to run to be on the school board, and he's going to need 1,000 signatures, and then advise, like, between people at the coffee shop, your business, the co-op, the farmers, we can get those 1,000 signatures to put you on the ballot to run to be part of the school board. And she's like, "You love kids and all that," and so hopefully that ends up happening. And he wants to make a change, to help, Dante, but other people like Dante, help maybe make some rules that actually helps and aids the people in the community. So we'll see what happens with that. And then next we go to Ann Vi, who doesn't know that her pies are being promoted by Demetrius, a TikToker with over 1 million subscribers online. And she doesn't even know this until Martin Henderson, a buyer from Hayes Farms Fresh Food, comes in, buying 7 full pies, and he wants to have her pies in all of this Hayes Farms Fresh Food stores. They got 2 in Louisiana. Then he says they have other multiple stores throughout the country. And so Aunt Vi's like, "Thank you. I must discuss this with my business partner, first, and she'll follow up with him, and won't he do it? Won't he do it? It's good because they lost the other guy who owned supermarkets, and I don't know if they don't say if the Hayes Farms is international, but it'll give Aunt Vi pies more stretch, depending on how many stores, and locations that this company has. So depending on what Dollar says, we'll probably find out in the next episode. But it's good that something like this happens. And I'm assuming too we may end up meeting this Demetrius, a TikToker. And the buyer also said that his daughters and her friends, they be waiting in line at the farm, in line at the farmer's market to get a pie, to get a slice of her pie because the lines be long. So sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But she's been getting free promotion from this TikToker, not even knowing. Even though one of the the waitresses or cooks in her store was like, "Oh, yeah, um, yeah, he's Demetrius, he's funny." And apparently the girl knew about it but never told Aunt Vi. So I don't know. I thought that was weird. If you work in the if you work in the restaurant and you see this video going around and you don't even tell her. I mean, it was a good thing. It's not like he was saying something bad. He was like, these pies are fire. or 5. So but either way, the worker didn't even let Anvi know. And then we go, and then we find out that the Landrys are back. Like cockroaches in the walls. You don't see them, but they're always there. But yeah, the Landrys are back. They're doing construction over the edge of their property line, and Ralph, Angel, and Dollar, they take photos as proof, and to kind of find out what the Landrys are up to. They show it to Aunt Vi, and Aunt Vi's like, that's Betty's land, which is Parker's mom's land, and you know Parker doesn't own it, her mom does, and Vi's like, I need to find out what's going on. I need to find Betty. And apparently there's some kind of history with Betty that I guess is problematic. They don't say what happened necessarily. Or maybe they did in the earlier season and I don't remember. But either way, Hollywood was like, do you want to go, digging into the past? And then I was like, I have to let Betty know. She wouldn't just sell her land. Maybe the land users are trying to do it behind her back. So we'll probably end up seeing this Betty again. Um, and then we go to Ralph Angel and Dollar's house, and they get a knock on the door, and it's Mr. Randolph from the loan commissioner's office. He lets them know that he got fired, because he kept making inquiries against, Mr. Miller. They kept demoting Mr. Randolph and then kept promoting, Mr. Miller, who keeps, who takes all the black farmers, specifically, loans to handle upon himself and is like screwing them over. But basically, he has this box of different loan applications. Basically all these folders of proof, kind of showing the corruption of what Mr. Miller has been doing. And also, he lets Ralph Angel and Dollar know that Mr. Miller has been taking bribes from the Landrys, and he's been extending their loan payments for over 18 months. And he's like, just to let you know, he's like, don't believe what you see. The Landrys are broke and they need money. And, that's why they're, selling parts from their sugar mill, for scraps for money. And Ralph Angel and Dollar say, well, we need to start a fire, not a real fire necessarily, but we need to, unearth what's going on, and we need to let people know what's going on, basically. You know, we need to see what we can find out. But things are not looking good for the Landrys, apparently. We're going to see what happens. And then we go to Camille and Nova again. They're having dinner. And, Nova, lets Camille know she wonders what would have happened if, she wasn't afraid of her dad at that time and had did what she wanted to do instead of not doing what she wanted out of fear. And, she says they could have had a completely different life, assumably together, because Camille got married, to another woman, and they have Camille has a son and a daughter and all that. But and then maybe Nova's life would have took a different direction as well. But Camille's like, it is what it is. But then they end up kind of having a dance, I guess maybe to make up for the dance that Nova missed. And then they end up dancing to SWV's Weak, and the episode ends. And I get so weak in the knees. Anyway, I'm not doing that. But so it looks like the Landrys may have some chinks in the armor. A couple episodes they bought Parthena's land for what, 60 or 70 some $1,000. Maybe he was just showboating, or maybe he had more money at that time. Even though they did lose a lot of money, assumingly when Aunt Vi and Nova and and all the border loans stopped the sale of the border loan kind of farmland going through, and them building the prison, with the city or whatever. So maybe that was what really kind of broke the backs of the Landry's money, by that sale not going through. But we will see what happens. It's interesting. Micah's getting smarter, that getting wiser now. We haven't seen Charlie and Micah's dad. I can't even think of his West. I can't even think of his name. We haven't seen them for a minute, so assuming they'll come back. I'm assuming I don't know. I know they usually do 13 episodes, so we'll see. But either way, let me know if you like the review. Hit the like button. If you have any comments, comment below. Please subscribe. Trying to get 1,000 by the end of the year. Other than that, I'll see you next time. Bye.